frustrations of this past year is that I was in the process of planning on doing a revival of a character written and drawn by a mentor of mine, who'd been dormant for some time, and the project fell apart. And I really wanted to do this. It was an adventure place that took place in the early 60s. I love 60s stuff because there's that period between the murder of JFK and the Beatles arriving in the States. That's kind of a massive shiver. It's a national mourning, and playing in that time. And I had a very clear idea of what that was going to look like. And that was very, very dark. I mean, it was hard-boiled, but also noir in that regard, because it was about just a series of brutal incidents piled on top of the other, with no satisfaction of any moral kind. And I'm okay with that. But I always feel that it's really important to service the narrative. That simply dropping shadows is the equivalent of Count Floyd's Scary Kids. You know, it's just not that. It's you know, John's adaptation is really solid because it is so matter of fact. There's an artist in Italy named Vittorio Giardino, who is what would have happened if Giraud had gone to work for Hergé as opposed to Gigi. His work is a clean line. It looks sort of a bit like Hergé, and it is very matter of fact, but it is incredibly compelling. There is no action whatsoever in his work, and this stuff, you cannot not look at this work. It is so perfect in its sense. And he's really someone to look into. Look at a book called Sam Pezzo in Shit City, or the Max Friedman novels. They're really good. And this stuff is, again, brightly colored in a lot of places, but with a sensibility that is dour and focused in its dismay.
Any other questions before I start peppering with other questions?
Babies.
We have been, talking about what noir is and sort of mentioning some of our favorite pieces. Are there any other pieces of sort of noir fiction, comics, movies, books, whatever, that you feel are underappreciated? You're like, man, this really is the business when it comes to this, and nobody talks about this. Anybody else?
I mean, in my mind, always goes to film noir, the films, like Night of the Hunter, Howard mentioned in the past. There's just so many that you could explore. There's a whole month dedicated to it that TCM runs noir films all through November. So that's, if you really want a crash course on what noir is, like just spend time watching those movies, and everything else will kind of extrapolate from there.
I would also suggest Googling. There's a list on Google of 100 noir westerns, which sounds like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
But Blood on the Moon, Track of the Cat. There's some astonishing work done. Rawhide. There's just a slew of great noir. I mean, The Devil's Doorway. There's just amazing shit out there. And I would also recommend you read David Thompson's Suspects. Suspects is an epistolary novel written by George Bailey, as you no big secret. It's about 85 characters in 55 films and what happened to them after the movie.
If you want novels about bad people doing bad things, just pick any Jim Thompson book off the shelf.
Hell of a Woman,
Yeah.
Op 1280, Killer Inside Me, The Alcoholics, The Getaway.
If there was a book that literally changed how I read, it was Killer Inside Me.
Oh,
Because you go into it just read, you're in this guy's head. He's a nice small town sheriff, and I'm not going to spoil the twist of a 50 or 60-year-old novel, but there's a moment in that book where your mind is blown, and you're just like, I'm in a different world now.
Thompson was called the dime store Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
And he was capable of writing some of the best prose in crime fiction ever, and the worst at the same time. Mm-hmm. Read The Getaway is a perfect example. The beginning of The Getaway and the end of The Getaway are fantastic. The middle is just dog shit.
Just vibes.
Is that what Peckinpah, the film The Getaway, is that based on that?
Yeah, and the original film is pretty good. The Queen McGraw picture.
Well, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. I've
never seen Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
How?
I have a list of things I've never seen. things slip away. And hopefully I won't be dead before I get to see it. So watch yourself.
Okay. Great double feature with Killing of a Chinese Bookie.
And good news with the Varsity Rag. That with Peter Lawford and June Allison, I think no.
How about comics?
I think maybe a monster from Naoki Urasawa could be considered noir.
I mean, sort of, I guess, other than maybe some of more of the obvious ones, but yeah, I think that would work, obviously. I mean, I guess if we're talking about, the noir and sort of not fatality, the fatalistic look at it, obviously everyone says that, Miller, Janson, your work on Daredevil, turning that character into a noir sort of character, I guess would be maybe a little more considered hard-boiled, because again, he's a superhero, so it's still, it's not sort of as damaged as, I guess, regular noir.
I'll throw out a book that maybe you wouldn't think of as noir, but Jaime Hernandez's The Love Bunglers is heartbreaking, and it's about people living seeped in their own regret. And it flashes back to these moments where people make terrible choices, and that book is, it's strong. He draws in a very Dan DeCarlo, Henry Lucy style, but it shifts from pure comedy to just total despondency from one panel to the next in a way that is so rare in comics. It's not a crime book by any means, but there are elements of crime and darkness and noir that I think shine through.
And I can't speak what the translation is going to be like. The Fantagraphs is going to be publishing a library of an Algerian, French, Italian artist named Attilio Micheluzzi. The first one just came out, it's Marcel Lebrun. And if you're not familiar with Micheluzzi's work, Micheluzzi died very young. He had a very short career because he was an attorney who gave up the law and became a comic book artist. And his work is deeply informed by what we're talking about here, both graphically and narratively. And I don't know who's doing the translation, because Kim is dead. Kim Thompson used to do all the translations from French from Fantagraphs, and Kim was a really good writer. But this is work with also with Jacques Tardy, not the Adele et la Bête, but the World War I stuff and the contemporary stuff. And he's a guy who doesn't use black for shadows; he uses black for accents. So it's literally a graphic take on a very cartoon style. But Micheluzzi will knock the shit out of you. He's extraordinary. The work is really beautiful. And also Breccia, both father and son. And Jose Munoz, who the currently dead Keith Giffen seemed perfectly comfortable stealing from. If you've not seen Munoz's work with Sampaio, and Solano Lopez from Argentina, there's a lot of really good guys out there.
Oh yeah. I was thinking in terms of, you mentioned Daredevil, and one of the things that I was keenly aware of when Frank and I were doing Daredevil is that there are some very specific visuals that are attached to noir. And, we mentioned Venetian blinds, which is shadows, and specifically Venetian blinds. But there's also stairways, because the characters that are on stairways are always, that represents their journey, and usually their journey to something bad. There's reflections, the idea of mirrors and water reflecting the individual, representing the duality of their nature, water itself. And I think there's a couple more that escape me at the moment, but in terms of being very specific about your visuals, I always try to incorporate as much of those very specific noir visuals when I'm doing something like Daredevil, or when I'm doing something, I think, Shawn, you mentioned moody, something that is moody, something that gives, that creates some sense of apprehension or danger. Also, I think about what I show and what I don't show, because I think how one crops shots, the object that is in the panel has a lot to do with creating mood or a sense of mystery or noir. Howard, you're the old man. What do you think?
Well, Alex mentioned Jim Thompson, and it occurred to me as Klaus was talking that this new supposed new EC company is doing all this horror and science fiction stuff. And most of you think about Wallace Wood as a science fiction man. But for me, when I read Thompson, what I see Thompson's work is through the scrim of what Woody was doing for crime suspense and shock suspense. And Woody's interpretation of urban decay of the 1950s so completely informs this work. And he in turn was informed by Anthony Mann. You can see the John Alden's work that shows up a lot in the Woody stuff. If you've not seen Wallace Wood's work in shock suspense, which are basically liberal hysteria, you will be blown away by the dirtiness, the grunginess, the textural pattern of brick, whereas Eisner sentimentalizes the urban landscape, Woody is terrified of it and is willing to dip into his terror. It's really worth looking at. It's extraordinary work. And that really is the visual equivalent of what Thompson does. Thompson is, I think, the most archetypally Roman noir American writer. Everything comes out of Thompson. Not the best writer of them, but he defines the form.
He just goes for the throat in a way that
Yeah.
I was so jarring to me, and I think it continued. I reread his catalog not long ago, and it still affected me because it's just so raw. And
It's incredibly
it really
creepy.
stands the test of time.
I mean, is anybody watching Bad Monkey? Not the monkey. Carl Hyacin is one of the greatest crime writers alive. And it's taken years for someone to figure out a way to transliterate the narrative effect that Hyacin writes some of the most visual, most brutal, violent, gruesome crime fiction you will ever read in a comic voice that is more in common with Max Schulman on the Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. It's hysterically funny and brutal. And Bo Lawrence has found the language. You've seen the show?
It's good.
It's fucking amazing.
Is that
You
Vince
people
Vaughn?
should be ashamed of
Is it
yourself.
the one?
What's it called?
Is it
Bad Monkey. It's on Apple Plus with Vince Vaughn
Vince Vaughn, okay.
and the extraordinary John Ortiz. Ortiz is listed as a guest star. He's in every episode.
Charles
Ortiz-
Willeford does that too. I mean, that
Yeah, well, exactly.
way to
Willeford's
dance
not-
between, you read Miami Blues and you think, oh, this is just a standard PI novel, and it's not. It's
Read
so,
Cockfighter.
yeah.
Cockfighter.
Yeah.
Willeford is a guy who achieves enormous success in personal fame 2 months after he drops dead.
Yeah.
What do you got?
That's very noir.
It certainly.
Just going back to, that's all wonderful, just going back to Daredevil for a split second. When you had mentioned, the Venetian blends and the sort of the using of different techniques, there is a sequence somewhere around like the late sort of 170s where we see Ben Urich doing like an expose on a corrupt mayoral candidate, and the scene that you have between Ben and J. Jonah Jameson, right in the thing. It's at an evening sort of thing. So you see Venetian, you got the Venetian blinds, and you see Jameson striated with the things, and he's got the rolled up newspaper in his hand. He's like, you better be sure. Like, really, you better be sure. And see, Parker, sort of J. Jonah Jameson. We see him in all these other instances, but when he gets into Daredevil, because the world of that comic, he then becomes it's one of the best sort of depictions. Like, oh, he's actually really he's got this thing for Spider-Man. But other than that, he is he's a legitimate character, and it legitimized him for me in a way that other instances really. So we could take that tangent. That'd be great. Any other questions as we are close to? Yes.
I just want to comment on your use of stairways. Okay, Double Indemnity. When Barbara Stanwyck is walking down the stairs near the beginning, and she's in the Golden May, but the shadows behind her, and poor Fred McMurray is down the bottom of the stairs, waiting for his destiny to come down and kill him.
And not a particularly attractive woman, but astonishingly sexy and held the screen like a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You remind me, by the way, if I may, that I think that Hitchcock delved in noir quite a bit.
Yeah.
You're talking about like a stairway. I can think of Ingrid Bergman in Notorious, or some of the black and white movies that he did. I don't know if that was his favorite genre, but I think he certainly touched upon the elements of noir, like staircases and reflections and you know, things like that.
Well, he did that in Suspicion, he did that in a whole bunch of movies, you know.
Pal of mine posted a shot, a couple of screen caps of Hitchcock, the rack focus stuff, and he said, nobody does this anymore. I said, I do it every fucking day. Comic book guys do all that stuff all the time, because it's all we have. Klaus and I used to do a seminar, and we were talking about trying to explain to these 5 nukes every 6 months that comics are a static medium. And we both said, the only movement you have is the implication of deep space. And it was like, oh. It was like 2 dogs discovering sarcasm at the same time.
And that was editorial.
That was just like, remember that day? And the 2 of us turned into like characters from Ball of Fire. Look at this, you know. But that use of deep space, that implication of space through rack focus, is one of the things that now we can achieve even more effectively with the advent of computer technology. Computer technology gives us an opportunity to really create a living world in our static medium. And I like to take advantage of that. I mean, I may be old, but I'm interested in competing with guys a third my age.
You know, I have to say, it was so interesting to be on this panel with Klaus and Howard. I think if we're just talking about movement, and I'm thinking about there's so many scenes in comic books that have burned into my mind's eye from reading, and I think, and I'm going to get really kind of very geeky now, but with Klaus and the Daredevil run, there's this panel where I never forgot this, and it feels like it's moving when I think about it. It's when the Punisher is doing these push-ups with this barbell in one arm, and there's a television behind him, and he's like listening to the news as he's like sort of doing these push-ups, and the camera kind of pulls in. I always remember that sequence. It just feels like it's moving me. With Howard, there was a scene from his great Twilight series for DC Comics, and I remember reading that. I think I might have been, I don't know, was it late high school or early college? I'm not sure. But it was the scene where it's like they're about to go to war, they're about to attack, and like the bad guy, because it's been forever since I read it, so I can't remember the characters' names. The bad guy's putting on his helmet and he says, "No quarter." I just remember that line sticking out to me because I'd never heard that line before. I was like, "No quarter, what does that mean?" But I just remember like there was so much energy in that panel, and just the way he puts that helmet on and he says that. It's just these just really great moments. I think that kind of, to me, that's what, you know, like, the brilliance of comics is, and especially when you say that it's making a medium that is so static and two-dimensional and flat come to life.
Right.
And that's the brilliance of it. And I think it's such a great synthesis of writing and drawing. You know, and so the writer puts it out there, and then the artist just picks it up, and when they nail it, it just becomes 3D. So.
And I hated those Drew Spicer crime graphic novels too.
No, why?
You see, they were awful. It was like The Emperor's New Clothes. They're so good. No, they're not. They suck. They really suck. They're not well made. They're not well edited. They're not well written. They're a mess. There's no structure. There's no narrative. They're just all over the place. And comparing yourself to Kenneth and Eisner? No.
This is just
I think I bonded with Drew Friedman in this. You know? Drew's got it in for Jules in a really funny way. Oh yeah, it's really good. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, it's great. Well, Jules lost me when he started shitting all over prom.
Really? Oh, it's that one?
Oh, wrong. Such a bad idea.
Okay.
just to touch on one.
Sorry, I just had a moment. It just happens every now and then, man, my age, you know. Playing
and just to sort of, again, any other questions?
Well, one of the things that Shawn was talking about, a movement in a scene with Howard's work is an American flag when Rubin gets so frustrated when Cyril Farrakhan's driving past status quo and Rubin says, that's enough, and he puts on the buzz knocks and grabs the shield, and there's the energy of that scene. Definitely. And by the way, the two sexiest pages in comic books is Rubin and Mandy hooking up in her van for the first time, as far as I'm concerned.
You are such a suck-up fan. You should be ashamed of yourself.
You're nice to my mother.
So one of the things, I know I said this.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
No.
Is Black Kiss noir? It is, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's also filth and shameful.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of comics is that, it does combine words and pictures. It gets us the chance to see these amazing visuals, but they're not being thrown past us at 24 frames a second. So we get to just sort of let these like wash over us and take the time to have that particular moment stick with us, or the Jameson moment, or any of these other moments. We get to have the the talent that you bring to it, and we get to just have it, like I said, wash over us, and we can go back and go forward. It is the best of all sort of possible mediums in a lot of ways. I do not have any more questions. I think nobody else has any more questions. I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you so much.
Indulge me so we can do a group selfie. Can everybody do a group selfie?
I think we can.
Yeah, all right, everybody get up. Let's do a group selfie. All right, so everyone, crowd over here. I'm gonna get the camera.
It's the most incriminating photograph you will take all night.
I love this one, these signatures. All right, here we go. So we have the whole thing here.
Nice play.
So all you guys here, and then I'll get over here, and then you guys go up my shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Work with me. Thanks, guys.
Oh, now I get it.
I'm getting back here. I respond to authority. This is not what
So everyone go behind.
you are so. You are so honored.
All right, let me see.
You mean after the hula hoops and shit?
Let's see, hold on. Okay,
Howard's over
hey, go ahead, get moving a little bit more.
I'm gonna pretend to be Alex.
All right, let me see. Wow, oh, God. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Just thinking about the Holocaust. I'm here for you. I'm the fucking learner. GIA on DIN. His first week was It's a series of novels about a patriot stuck in Europe.
But no.